Call the meeting to order. We'll start off with a roll call. Keith McGuigan here. Shane Wells.
Here.
Amy Hanneman.
Here.
Brian Winslow.
Here.
David Ruth.
Here.
And we'll around the table and just introduce yourselves for everybody else.
Brianne Jackson.
Thank you.
Ginger Joel, Secretary.
Nate Byrne, Director of Student Services.
Barbara Zolman, Business Administrator.
Jocelyn Young, Principal.
Adrian Allford, Assistant Principal.
Thank you. Brandon, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shoot, that's in the face.
All right, we have the bills and manifests going around.
Yep.
I think we'll start off with our report from our Co-Brown student representative.
Okay, so I was just going to talk about some events that happened last month, some things that happened this week, and some things that are going to happen in the future. So the first thing is that the chorus went to the UNH Choral Gala. And we worked with some of the professors from UNH, and we learned some new techniques, and we thought it was a really good learning experience for the chorus. And because it wasn't in the budget, we all decided as a group that we were going to help pay for it. And we were all really happy with that, and all of the advice we got from the people at UNH, it was really an experience for us, so that was great, and I think that we'll probably do stuff like that in the future. So this Tuesday, the chorus also visited Barrington Middle School, and we sang with the middle schoolers as well as the band. They played with the middle school band, and it really gave us a chance to talk to the kids and get some interest in the arts, and recruit some people to maybe try new things. So that was really great. And the Stratford Band and Chorus are going to have a similar event where they are going to come to Co-Brown, and we are going to get a chance to work with them. Winter Carnival was this week, so that's a really big thing at Co-Brown. All of the teachers and students participate. Tomorrow is the comedy skit, the music, the video, and the dance. And those are just the performances that we're doing tomorrow. And then today was all of the games and really big events sports and stuff. So there's a little bit of everything for everyone. So it's really big for us, and it's a chance for the classes to compete and bond. And Winter Carnival this year was hosted by the junior class, which is the class of 2020, and they also hosted a Winter Carnival dance, which was a chance for them to fundraise for senior year, prom and our senior trip, and someone did a bake sale as part of their senior project. We are working on freshman registration right now, which Peer Helpers will be doing a lot with. Peer Helpers is going to talk to the parents and the 8th graders at freshman registration night. So they're going to have a little table there, and probably SOPA will be there too. which is the supporters of the performing arts, and peer helpers are going to visit Stratford, and we're also going to visit here to talk to the 8th graders. So hopefully some past students will come back and talk to the 8th graders. The spring play is being worked on right now. All of the theater students are working really hard right now to build a set, and some of the theater classes are helping out. It's a musical. We're doing like Peter and the Starcatcher, and a lot of students audition this year. This year at Co-Brown, we've really seen like an increase in interest in the arts. A lot of students have joined. The play will be like March 14th, 15th, and 16th at 7 o'clock, so we're all really getting ready for that. And that's also an opportunity for seniors to get a in-school cultural event. When we get back from vacation, we will start choosing our classes for next year, and we have a lot of new classes this year. Classes like chorus and band are going to have the option to either be CP or honors. The requirements for honors are that you like go to competitions and auditions, so that is really big for the classes this year. And some classes like guitar are being added. They're adding a lot of new classes this year with the new teachers. So students are looking over their classes, and juniors are looking at what requirements they need to fill. Junior parent night is also coming up because juniors are getting ready to plan for college and apply to college. That's on April 2nd, so we're going to be talking about college planning, hopefully financial aid, and alternatives to college, which is really great because college isn't for everyone, so they're talking about things you can do instead. And SATs are on April 9th.
Okay, thank you.
Busy.
Yeah. Does anybody have any
My hand's
questions?
tired already.
Which class will win all those contests in the snow tomorrow?
I'm not sure. The junior class did pretty good today. We won the dodgeball, so.
Is that legal in school anymore?
Only with a
It
red
was pretty
They tried
rough.
to outlaw it with us, Dave, right?
Right.
Ms. Jackson, I just want to say congratulations on your fundraising efforts and your trips with the chorus. I know firsthand how difficult that can be, and the fact that it sounds like it was student-led to outreach, and then also to get advice from professors at UNH. I commend you. I think that's wonderful. So.
Yeah, with the new teachers this year, because we have a new band and chorus teacher, there are gonna be a lot of improvements in the arts department. And I know that the school is working on building a new art building. So there will be a better computer area for people in the arts too. So they're making a lot of arts improvements this year.
Great. Anything else?
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing your experiences with us. It's great to hear what's going on.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Enjoy vacation.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, I don't think we have any any agenda adjustments to make tonight, so we'll move on to, Nord, do we have a non-public session?
No, we do not.
All right, we will at the end. So we'll move on to opening public comment. Anybody like to spend 3 minutes addressing the board? No? No? Any board member like to address the board this time? No comments? All right, we'll close public comment and move on to our consent agenda. We have 2 sets of minutes here and an enrollment report, so we can take a motion to approve the entire consent agenda, or we can break it out and do them individually if you want to make some changes to things.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Any discussion on this? Comments, changes? No? All good? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
right, motion carries. All right. Mr. O'Sullivan.
I have in your board packet the monthly financial review, the revenue report, and the current grants, and you're in fantastic shape on your fund balance at this point. I've met with Jocelyn recently so that we went over open purchase orders, because again, we're still trying to get as much closed out by April 1st as possible. So a lot of that purchase order activity still to be completed is in the building maintenance area, because there's typically a lot of spring activities that have to occur. Revenues, the only point there is that there is your final installment on adequacy grant that will be coming quite soon to finish out that state obligation. And then I don't have any comments on the grants myself. So that's my report. I will point out that given that you have a pretty substantial fund balance and a broken down tractor, that you have that tractor budgeted for the next fiscal year, but if you needed the tractor sooner, you certainly have plenty of leeway to get it done. I also, sorry?
Question? Would we start going out to bid? I mean, maybe the budget passes, the budget, one way or the other, will be passed next week, or two, whatever it is, 3 weeks from now.
Well, you can't spend money from the upcoming budget, Dave, until July 1st. That's why I
Right.
brought up that you have a substantial fund balance. So in essence, if you bought the tractor now out of this year's funds,
Yep.
I would expect you wouldn't spend those in the next fiscal year, so you'd be returning those funds to the town.
Two
then.
tractors.
But my question is, should we start now?
If your board decides they want to use money from this budget to buy the tractor, then yes, just give us the go-ahead and we'll get the bids going for it.
We're not using a tractor now. Knock on wood, we haven't had those big snowstorms, but we're not really using a tractor if it doesn't have a transmission, correct?
No, it's not operational.
Okay. So, I mean, it isn't gonna hurt us to get the process going, and then if for some reason you can make a decision
Yeah, I mean, I'd
in a
kind
month,
of,
or you can make it in July, but at least you'll have a better idea of what we're looking at.
I'd kind of like to see what the election, what happens with our budget at the election first before we decide.
What's the
what we're
difference
gonna
if it gets, if we get a default budget?
do. What's the difference between, it's like
Yeah,
56,000,
50,000?
56,000?
So you're still gonna need the thing, I
But-
would think.
Yeah,
All right, my suggestion would be to get
Just
the
let us
process
know, Linda
going.
will prepare a bid package. I think your
everybody.
building has the specifications, so it wouldn't take us long to get the bids. But I just want to point that out, that, you know,
Yeah.
it's up
I
to
mean,
you.
I made a suggestion about a snow blower. I don't know if it's the right way to go, especially if it's a rear-mounted one. I wouldn't want one. If it's something you mount on the front, it's beautiful, but if not, no. And the only other attachment was the, a spreader for salt, sand.
I think so. It's been a while since we.
It comes with a
had it.
bucket normally. I mean, you don't usually get the backhoe. You pay extra for that.
Yeah.
We don't need one, I don't think.
we'll stock it.
Yeah.
And then in your, I believe your last board meeting, there were a number of questions around student activity funds. So I'm working with the building administration to get everything on a balanced basis and reconciled. So
Mr. Winslow, you had a question?
Yeah, about the fund balance, I know we've talked to the SAU level about recommendations from the audit committee. Does the audit committee also make recommendations for individual schools?
audit committee will have their, well, actually, I have their first draft, and you're looking excellent.
Great.
The auditors plan to be at your first March meeting
Okay.
to actually make a presentation. I'm assuming that Mr. Rooney has brought that to your attention.
I think you mentioned that very important.
So, pat yourself on the back. Yeah, there's some things in a broader context that aren't specific to necessarily North. You know, they want us to, with the new software that's coming along, to, step up and get the accounting codes accurate.
Yeah.
And I'm working on that as we speak, and it's a big project, but ultimately, things aren't gonna look dramatically different, and you won't even notice that the codes have been corrected. But one of the things we're trying to do across the 3 districts is essentially I'll pick something simple, technology director pay. We'd like it to say the technology director in all 3 districts and have the same exact accounting code in all 3 districts. And that's what the auditors expect. So that's work that's underway, and with the software company Tyler Technology, we've committed that we'll have that completed by next Friday, because they have to upload all of this, I'll call it corrected data, into their system and make corrections of the past data. So anyway, it's a big project, and we're moving right along, and appreciate the support.
Point of order? Did we make a suggestion, or did we make a motion to start the process of getting bids sent out?
We haven't done anything yet.
Okay.
If you want to make a motion, you can
I'll make
do
a
that.
motion that we start the process and get bids for a tractor.
I will.
All right, any discussion on that? I mean, I just think it's a little premature. I'd rather just wait till after the election. I don't think there's a rush on it unless, is there something we need the tractor for, like for snow removal now? I mean,
It's a challenge not to have it, but frankly, I don't know that the timing's gonna line up anyway. By the time you get bids
Yeah.
back and go through the purchasing process, it'll likely be April, so I don't know that we would need it, but,
I mean, and fundamentally, if the town budget were to fail, or the school budget were to fail in the town, we're working with the default budget, we still have maintenance for the tractor, so, I mean, we're looking at, is it in need of a new transmission at this point?
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure Charlie's tractor said that it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, 5,000 for a transmission,
Okay.
among other things.
It's a lot of money. It's like a Band-Aid. Oh,
right.
yeah.
And what's the approximate cost?
Yeah,
It's like 22, 19 to 22,000, right around there.
And it's in our budget for next year?
Yeah.
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 Flashing good. Any other discussion on that? So the motion would be to direct the SAU to go put out bids
Yeah.
and start the process for a tractor. Or put out an RFP, I suppose, right? Sorry.
It's the same difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
You have a question about that?
No, okay.
All in favor of doing that now? Any opposed? Me? So motion carries 4-1.
All right, we'll get going on
All
it.
right, thanks.
Do you need me any longer?
You can't leave that.
I start making mistakes the longer I
Before you
stay.
go, does anybody have any questions or anything before our business administrator leaves for the budget or the numbers or? Yeah,
On page 41,
sorry.
That's all right. I love Mr. Roos' questions.
Plodzik and Sanderson, I wanted to say that name, that's Plodzik and Sanderson, which is about the audit. They
Yes.
said they'd be kind of ready in January.
Well,
They're still, that never holds true usually.
I have, they weren't ready in January, but that's why we're trying to get the purchase orders done by April. And we know there's gonna be some purchase orders after that, but not a flood. And if you all decide to do any, I call it surplus spending, we really want to give you in April a pretty good handle on what we think this fund balance is gonna look like for the end of the year, so that at your first meeting in May, you could make any decisions. So, you can, in the interim, have discussions, just like the tractor, have information relative to what it would cost, and go from there, because we're just trying to advance that so we can get the books closed, have the audit start much earlier, and have stuff so they show up in the town report, like we really would like.
Page 43? And second section, it says revenues and expenditures.
Yeah.
Does this involve, this is for the high school and the elementary school?
Correct.
Everything?
Yes.
See, I kind of like this. This is what I almost visualized that we would get a monthly report on. I mean, if you really look at that, and you go down and say, ooh, we're spending school administration, $338,000 for the year. What is the school administration? Is that just a principal's office?
That's the
Yes.
SAU costs.
Is that the SAU too, or both?
No, I think executive administration
Okay.
is the SAU office.
Okay.
And school administration is Jocelyn's
In the general.
office.
And support services mean something. School, instruction, $8,657,000. Is that like all the bills for the teachers?
And Co-Brown.
And Co-Brown?
Yep.
Yeah. But see, I see something like that, and I'm saying it makes me understand it a lot better, because I'm looking through 14 to 20 some odd pages with 50 lines per page, and I was like, you don't want to go through all this.
I appreciate your desire to see the simplicity.
Yeah.
But the state actually forces us into complexity because they want to see data sorted at such a finite level
So
that.
they can justify having their job.
Well, they want things like how much is being apportioned to the high school versus, and, so I'd like simplicity too.
Right.
But we have to then blow this data apart to try to tease out what the state's looking for, so that leads to the kind of financial reports you actually get.
Some of the simplicity, if we had a report that says, here's what we spend on salaries, here's what we spend on FICA, here's what we spend on Medicare, here's what we spend on
I'll tell
retirement.
you what, when we get the new software up and running, and, we'll have to work at the kinks, but, our goal is to be ready and rolling on July 1st, and payrolls, all that kind of stuff. But we could generate a custom report that, greatly consolidates the detail into something that simply says, the kind of stuff that you're talking about. It's not gonna be hard.
No, okay, good.
So,
Looking forward to it.
all right.
You won't be here, Dave.
I'll be over there.
Well, when we get to that point, how about I'll touch base with you?
Yeah, sure.
And then you kind of direct us,
No, these five, it'll be five
No,
people,
but
but
I mean,
I'll offer advice.
what
It's
would
worth
be,
what you're paying me
a
for it.
consolidated or a condensed report? If it's along the lines of this balance sheet, then we know what to
I
do.
just love it to be simple, and say, oh, wow, we're spending blank on retirement, I didn't realize it was
It's
that
not gonna be
high.
hard
Yeah.
to do that for you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dave's the one doing the talking, but I think this is something that the whole board has been looking for a while.
I think
so
everybody else would probably like to see something like that too, so that you can have real fast, here's what's going on. Hey, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
All right, oh, sorry, I lost my place here.
Student service report.
Did we do the letter?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the bottom thing, yep.
Student services.
Student services report.
So,
Two hats tonight.
on page 44, everything's staying pretty steady. The one spot that I would like to highlight, though, is really underneath the indicator 11. The reason I'd like to highlight that is that's a lot of work that's been put in place by your special education teachers, your support staff, and your school psychologists getting all those tests done. What that's saying is over the last 3 months, they've had 14 new referrals, and they were able to get all of the paperwork done, all the testing done, everything reported on, and out within the time frame. So what you're looking for is just the fact that we scored 0 in that, and it's one of those few times that you want to score 0. So we had a 0 in that, saying that we've met all of the timelines. Looking at that too, out of the 14 students, there was a large percentage of that out of that at the preschool level. So that just keeps them pretty busy too, those new referrals as they come up. So that was the one area that I really wanted to take time to highlight, because that's one of those things that you really want to pay attention to when you're getting that many referrals coming in, and they're especially new referrals, and you're keeping it within the timelines, because it's a lot of new information that you have to go through. Other than that, if there were any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
We're good? All right, thanks.
Yep.
Moving right along quickly tonight. Ms. Young.
I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to be that quick because it's been a while and I have a lot for you.
Yep, that's fine.
Our report begins on page 45. Yes? It does not work, though.
You may have mine.
That one doesn't. Oh, thank you. I feel so special. So for summer programming, just a reminder, we run 3 different summer programs simultaneously. So we run a Title I summer program that has 2 components, a K through 5 component and then a 6 through 8 STEM component. We'll also run an extended school year program that runs through special education, and then we run a general ed middle school summer program for students, sort of as a credit recovery. If they failed one of their core classes in the final quarter of the school year, they can make up that grade over the summer so that then they regain eligibility for our extracurriculars in the fall. So not all of those are planned at this time yet. However, we have gotten approval for the Title I component through the Department of Ed. We have to write a pretty detailed application listing out what it is that we're going to do, how it will be staffed, how much everything costs. That has been approved at the state level. And so we've begun reaching out for staffing. And at this point, we're almost fully staffed for the K through 5 piece. So for K through 5, we run 3 classrooms, multi-age classrooms, a K1 for incoming kindergartners and current kindergartners, 2-3 and a 4-5. Each of those has a dedicated teacher, and then the K1 classroom also has a dedicated paraprofessional in it. There's another paraprofessional that will float between the other 2 classrooms and support as needed. And those classrooms will focus on reading and math. Students are selected based on need. So we go through a selection process. That's also something that we have to itemize for the Department of Education, and they approve that selection process. And then for grades 6 through 8, we'll offer more of an enrichment STEM component. This is similar to a program we've run the last couple of years. I'm hoping that Mr. Levergood will take charge of it again this year, because that was a great success last year. So we're looking for 10 to 15 students in grades 6 through 8. That also has a selection process that we're required to use, but it's a little bit more subjective because it's more enrichment versus data-based need demonstrated. The program will be 4 weeks, Monday through Thursday, 8:30 to 11:30. The dates and times will overlap with extended school year so that we can include extended school year students as much as possible in the special activities, visiting presenters, that type of thing. Next program, the New England Center for Children Partner Room, also runs those 4 weeks and then 2 additional weeks. So they will participate in some of the events that go on as well. And so the Title I piece is in motion. Mrs. Brewer and I, the special ed coordinator, will be meeting after vacation to start planning out the ESY component, and Mr. Alford and I will be working on the middle school component. So that is all underway.
Ask you a quick question about that. When you put together the criteria for who goes to, summer school, is it based on, do you adjust the criteria based on the numbers, or is the criteria fixed and however many are needed, or is that how many you do?
So for the K through 5, it's rank ordered. So the neediest students who are not already receiving a service through special education have to be prioritized first. Homeless or transient students also have to be prioritized. And then it's rank ordered from there.
Okay,
what we have room
so you
for.
have a
Yep.
set, so you just have a set number and you fill.
Yep, so we'll invite 15. If we get 5 no's, then we'll invite the next 5 on the list
Okay.
until we try to fill up.
Can I ask one question about that?
Sure.
Sorry. If they're in it like, right now, doesn't guarantee they'll be in it for the summer?
No. So Title I during the school year is just math.
Okay.
Title I during the summer is reading and math, so we have to be a little bit more flexible. We do on the selection sheet have a point that's assigned. It's point-based. So if they're currently in a math Title I intervention, they get a point. If they're currently in a reading intervention, they get a point. So it's considered, but it is not a guarantee.
Okay. Just curious.
Also, sometimes kids will qualify at the beginning of the year and make great gains and no longer require those supports over the summer. So that's good news.
Okay.
I think you mentioned NEC programs run concurrently or similar to
Yeah,
yours.
so it'll start at the same time and then it runs 2 weeks longer.
Pre-K, does pre-K run a summer program similar?
They do.
At least the dates are,
Yeah, they're within line, yeah.
okay. So we don't have any major, we got a lot of summer stuff going. Sometimes in the summer, we had some big projects, but we don't have any big projects maintenance-wise.
We might.
Okay, but you'll still be able to,
We'll know in a few weeks.
all right, but then basically.
But we will
you
certainly
can-
work around it, yes. Mid-year assessment, we test, as you probably know, AIMSweb and NWEA in the fall and the winter, and then some students are tested again in the spring. We've just completed the mid-year portion of that testing. And some students So that gives us information to inform a few different things. One, instructional decisions, both in core instruction and during the response to instruction block. So data team levels meet in data meetings and adjust instructional approaches as needed based on that data. We also use it to release students from Title I. If they've made sufficient progress over the first half of the year, they can be released from Title I. That gives us room to pick up more students into Title I, so we've had some turnover in Title I there. And we are working to get the data from fall to winter compiled for you, and I should have that for you at the first meeting in March. Facilities update. So I don't know if you all know what an actuator is.
I do, something that moves something, that's all I
Yes.
know.
So it looks like a box. It's about this big. It functions as a motor, and it opens and closes valves in the heating system to release hot water to heat.
Thermostat.
Yeah, so it controls the temperature in the heating system. We have 100+ actuators in our building. Many of them were installed in 2001 during the major construction there. Over the course of this heating season, Mr. Tom has discovered that 11 of them right now are frozen in a certain position. Most of them are open. Some of them were stuck closed. Those ones have been manually opened to allow circulation. They do need to be replaced. They are not included in this year's budget. They were discovered to have failed after the budget process for next year, so they're not in next year's budget either. So as we look at the surplus fund balance, we thought we might want to start thinking about replacing them this spring so that we're in good shape for next heating season. And they're the type of thing that you can't inspect them, you can't have a prognosis of how much longer they'll last. We have 11 that have failed now. We might have a few more that fail over the next year. So we definitely want to think about replacing the 11 that we know are not working, and then maybe purchase a couple ahead, 2 or 3 ahead, so that next winter, if we need to have them installed, we can do that. So we're looking at about $450 per actuator, including installation. So for the 11 that are failed, we would be spending about $5,000, a little under. And then for 3 more, we wouldn't be paying for installation now, we'd just be paying for the actual item. But they're about $400 without the installation. So we are seeking board input on how you'd like to handle the actuator situation.
Sorry, go ahead.
I would like to congratulate somebody for the last sentence, the second part of it. It may make sense to also purchase a couple of extra ones.
We did this 2 years ago, too.
Sounds like, that's what we should be doing, is making, so I'd be in favor of buying 3 or 4, whatever you think you,
Yeah, we've been
what would be a
replacing these,
percentage?
like,
I mean,
every year.
yeah,
Tom's been asking for extras.
should.
So
I
do
think.
we not have money, or have we expended all our money for like building maintenance?
I mean, we're
used it all?
there, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Last time I
this would be
checked, it
above and
said
beyond.
$900.
$900 left, okay, so this would have come beyond.
Yeah, but what would we expect for a surplus? Because Tom or somebody was saying they could even buy the tractor this year out of surplus, so were we expecting a big
Well, yeah,
surplus?
I was just curious as to what we, like, to see if we were putting enough money into our maintenance lines for
Right.
when budgeting and things like that for, yeah, I mean, I agree, if it's something that needs to be done, it needs to be done, I think we have the money for it, we should definitely do that, in my opinion.
I did have a question, it kind of relates to this. I see that there's like $6,000 in the, let me make sure I'm saying it right. Grounds maintenance? When does that, and none of it has been
Mowing the
used?
lawns.
Does that only get,
That money got turned back last year, too, from grounds maintenance.
$8,000.
Right, and actually what has happened this year is because of a budgeting error in custodial wages, the custodial wage line is overspent, so that ground wages line is actually going to be used to make up the overspent line
All
in
right.
wages.
Where would the lawnmower come out of?
I'm sorry.
Mowing the lawns,
Right.
where would that come out of?
That would have come out of the grounds maintenance from last summer.
Or even in the fall, we mowed it in the fall,
Yeah.
right? So where did it come out of?
Salary. I think it
Sal?
probably just came out of salary.
so we're
Doesn't
not
matter.
like,
If
we're
we
not.
Spend a one line or the next, I
Okay.
don't care. but
So
I
it's
just
not like
find-
we're not doing something to use that money.
Right.
We're just kind of reallocating where
Right.
it goes. Okay.
I don't know if it's useful now, because we don't have like a official estimate, but on our packet on page 33, there is the anticipated balance of 615,800.
What page? I'm sorry.
33 of our packet.
Yeah, this is almost in every item we have, funds haven't been used.
Yeah.
Right, so, yeah.
I mean, obviously, that's gonna go down some, but,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's,
So
as
can we,
anticipated.
I'll make a motion for the SAU to look into finding the $5,000 plus whatever the extra is out of a line.
39, 1,200 plus 49, so
many
five,
extra?
$6,200 probably.
Well, you said $5,000, you're 6,200, how much? It's 450 times 11?
What's the extra?
Which is
Right, which is the
49.50,
11, and then if
which
you
is
wanted three
5,000,
more, it's
so-
about another 1,200.
Yeah,
Yeah, so-
roughly.
So you could do an up to 6,200.
It's without a computer, too. so.
Yeah, so is that,
Yeah, so, make a motion for the SAU to look for up to $6,200 in the budget for the actuators.
Second?
any discussion on that? Any further discussion?
Yeah, you're just trying to see if they can figure out a way to get it, so we can get them, did you want to do it at
I don't
spring?
want us to
No,
say a
the
line to
spring
take it
break
out
is
right now when they
in-
can find a
in
better way to
April,
find it.
Or did you want to get them next week?
Oh, so,
We were gonna purchase them and then have them installed when, probably over April vacation.
Okay, so you got time, yeah.
yeah, the motion would be to actually purchase them, right?
purchase
To
them, yeah.
Authorize purchase of, and, yeah.
So what it is, they're actually blowing heat now, but it doesn't go up and down, or whatever.
Right, we're having a hard
If it's giving us
time.
55 or 105, that's what we're getting.
Yeah.
But at least we're getting some heat, so
Yes.
no one's gonna freeze, pipes aren't gonna freeze.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Maybe we'll save some oil with new actuators.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would, because you don't turn off when it.
Have you tried WD-40?
I'm sure Mr. Thomas tried just about everything.
So, but one other thing though is like, I know we've had this discussion before about, actually, let's just finish this motion first. Anybody second that?
Got nothing else?
I did.
Very good.
All right, so I was second.
So we have a second, or discussion, do we guys want
This
to?
discussion is different from
All right,
this
so let's
motion.
move on with this motion then. All in favor of allowing for up to $6,200 for actuators?
And come back to us at a certain point to say, we found the $6,200, we want to do it in.
Well, okay, so that's the question. Is the motion to authorize them to do it right now?
Mine's-
Or
my
is the
motion
motion to
is to
see if they have the
authorize.
money to do it? I think it's pretty clear the money's there, so I'm not too worried about that, so I'm in favor of just
Yeah, just
authorizing it.
give us a note.
Yeah, let us know later.
Yeah, it's got to be done, so.
Right, right.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear.
Yep, please.
The motion is
To authorize up to $6,200,
purchase up to $6,200 to replace
the actuators.
those actuators.
$6,200
Thank you.
for,
Installing
Actuators.
11
Right.
plus 3 extras.
Okay, thank you.
for purchasing and installing actuators, I believe, right?
And that was second by Amy?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, we good?
Yep.
Well, with the motion, everybody understands it? All in favor?
Right.
Okay, motion carries 5-0 anyway.
For next year's budget on ground maintenance, can we just get a breakdown? Because I know like with, we do it with the director, with the tech director, with his plan. I would like kind of like a ground maintenance one, because I know like in the years past, we've always given back some money out of that grounds maintenance. I think it was $47.50 last year. I know some of it went to maybe the salary, but I always hear some people say about the ground maintenance down at the fields is not that well at times. So I don't know if that's money that's supposed to be used for that, or if it's just for cutting lawns, mowing lawns, and fixing potholes or stuff like that. So I just want to get a breakdown of what ground maintenance is being done.
Is so you meet with him for facilities? Does
We
he-
could do that
does
with
he
the
provide
facilities,
that
but I would
for
rather
you?
have it just like
and
tech
it'd be-
director gives his 5-year plan. What's his plan for the fields?
Yeah,
Okay.
that might be something the facilities committee has to do together, but I agree, it'd be nice to have something like that, yeah.
Well, I'll second your motion to get that.
I think it's just
Yeah.
something we're
I
asking
just
for.
want to give Tom a heads up. I don't want to say, Tom, we sit down with Tom, and say, hey, Tom, here's my first time ever giving you this question. Can you give me an answer? So if you can just pass it along to him.
And Moving on, Mrs. King provided a Mara Vista update. Sixth graders will be going to Mara Vista Tuesday, April 16th through Friday, April 19th. Mara Vista has once again been very generous with a $3,000 scholarship. Between that and what's in the budget, kids will be paying about $100 each to attend. We think we have 100% participation, which is great.
Yeah.
And we are fully staffed, including a nurse, and everybody's getting pretty excited about it. We just now hope that the weather cooperates. Next, I have 7th grade fundraising, and I'm also at the same time going to pass around an addendum because I'm not just asking for 7th grade. I have several other things that I'm asking for now on behalf of others.
I got 3 of them, I hope. Oh, you got some already. I got mine.
So Mrs. Krochmal, our 7th grade advisor, has put together some additional fundraising requests. They are on the next page in the packet, starting on page 47. She'd like to set up a GoFundMe page, have occasional themed day for students where they would pay $1 to wear a hat, pajamas, whatnot. Jeans days for staff once per month, also for $1, and 50-50 raffles at school sporting events. She would like to have March Penny Wars, and there's an explanation of how that works there, and then a paint night in April, followed by a 5K in May, and there are further details about the 5K further in the packet.
I love the name of that, Run to Summer. Along with Go Browns Run to Fall.
She has coordinated with PTA in 8th grade to make sure that toes are not being stepped on. The Jeans Day was something that I had questioned because 8th grade had already requested that. 8th grade has decided that they don't need to do that, and they're happy to hand that over to 7th grade. And then related to that, the Northwood Congregational Church has donated $35 to the 7th grade class, and so she's looking for permission to accept that donation. So that's all the 7th grade stuff. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to talk about
I
that?
have a question.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
Okay. All right, well, first, the GoFundMe page and everything, deposit to school. Everything should be managed through the school. If we're gonna sponsor, say the 7th grade can raise money, or the 8th grade can raise money, there should be one account that is deposited into a school account, like whether it's 2020 or 2019. All right, so nobody else would have another checking account to, okay, anything, because, all right, because in the past that happened, I just,
These go into the student.
yeah, everything that we have a fund for, the money would come into an account in the school, in the sense you'd be in charge of it. Okay. The other question is, they had 50-50 raffles at sporting events, baseball, softball. At the time, when we built that shed down there in the kitchen area and everything, it was to be used also by whoever, 7th or 8th grade, to sell coffee, hot chocolate, raise money that way. So I haven't seen it, I don't think, in the last couple of years. Maybe I missed it, you
Open
know.
in years. For school events.
School doesn't. Okay, I just, they're always looking for something extra to raise some
I
extra
think it'd be a
money.
great idea, but it's not part of the rec, I don't think the school owns it.
No,
do
the
they?
school owns it.
Yeah.
It's on school. It was built by the baseball group.
Yeah.
And the basketball group. And it's to be used by the school also.
I've just never seen it used by the school, so.
I have in the past, but like I say, last few years I come to, nobody used it. It isn't an easy job to go down there and sell things out of there, but it's available.
I think it would be a great idea to sell during events, like hot dogs and popcorn and juice and stuff. And,
Yeah.
but I always thought it was,
They would probably have to staff it. And does that take parent volunteers?
yeah, it would take
Yeah.
care of it.
Yeah, so it would just
Sure.
be somebody to coordinate
And the
that.
baseball group uses it, or whoever wants to use it for, well, no, soccer, they don't, the town soccer don't use it, I don't think anymore. But baseball, softball groups use it at night, like after 6 o'clock. It's there, they use it. But the back half of that is 3/4 of the storage is for the baseball group, and the other quarter or 1/3 of it is for the school use. That's how it was built and designed, so. But, yeah,
I don't know, I think, I always thought that it was the rec that did it because it's all their food, it's their
Was it rec,
refrigerator,
yeah.
it's all that, so, I mean, if you wanted to quit, that would be a mess. That'd be a headache for somebody, because, I mean, now you got, you know, food from the rec, then you get food from, well, food
you
from
have to
baseball,
manage it,
softball,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
food
It
from the
hasn't been
school.
opened in a while, though, so.
all
Yeah,
right, whatever. It's there.
I think it's a great idea, but whoever wants to take that headache, go ahead.
We're gonna sell it.
Yeah.
Well, we
Really
want,
convincing me to take
Sold.
that on.
Rec wants a snack shack. Just saying.
Right, if rec wants to run, you know, they could get permission from the school if the school ain't
Rec
using
can come
it.
with an offer
And
to
then
us.
baseball.
Mr. Winslow.
I like it.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Crockwell. She's putting in a lot of effort for fundraising. It's very obvious. I appreciate it very much. I just have a question about it's the second bullet, occasional theme days, for $1. Is she anticipating, like, the 7th grade is running that, and any student in the school can participate from, K through 8?
Yes, typically we do
Okay.
K through 8 hat days, for example, and kids can, sometimes we do them for free, just for fun.
Cool. I was just going to say, I feel personally uncomfortable asking students to pay $1 to participate in a kind of like a spirit event. I think it would be more appropriate to ask for a donation, perhaps, but I wouldn't want some kid to feel left out because they couldn't, I don't know how likely that is to happen, how often that is to happen. I wouldn't want to have anybody left out. So.
I guess it depends on how it's communicated too. Like Logan's been doing them for a couple of years, and I didn't take it as like you have to send in $1 to participate.
How was it
Well,
that day?
frankly, if somebody has crazy hair and they wear it that way to
Right.
school and they don't have $1, I don't send them home.
That's what I, right,
Already tried that, she won't send me home.
right. Yeah, I understand what you're saying though.
I guess it's about communication. I don't want to, I don't want
And
to.
I think was fun because you only did it like maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many times he's planning on doing it. But if you're trying to do it like, once every week or once every 2 weeks,
Yeah.
I could get some kids to be like.
Pajama days are what I
stealing
remember.
dollar bills from their parents, so.
I think our teachers would really emphasize that word occasional, because anytime kids have hats or crazy hair, things get a little different, so I wouldn't anticipate that these would be super frequent.
I've never heard anybody say anything to a kid either, like Jocelyn or Miss Young say, like, everybody's pretty respectful of it. I've never stopped someone to pay your $1.
Right.
Right.
But I get what you're saying.
I'm just
I get
trying to
it.
look out for everyone. So.
Yeah.
Anything else? Do you guys want to make a motion for all the 7th grade fundraisers?
I just want to read over the 5K.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in the booklet here somewhere, right?
Where
I
is
did
Yeah,
have
it's
a
on
question
page,
about
Oh, it's at the
48.
Meadows.
48 and 49.
Yep.
While you're reading, I did have a question that there'll be a form signed which holds safe the Northwood School.
49.
That's right on page 49.
Yeah, but we don't have to have anything about the town of New Hampshire, because, or does that just happen to be as? The Northwood School and Class is the city of Northwood, New Hampshire, so, I don't know, we're not insuring the town of New Hampshire.
Well, I
The
think
Northwood.
because it's
It's in
taking
Northwood, New
place
Hampshire.
in Northwood on
Right.
Okay.
On public
public
roads, probably.
public
Right.
grounds.
And I would assume that all requirements are met by the state, because they kind of are the ones in charge of that park, so, okay. Other than that, it's fun.
Yeah, I think it'd be a nice thing.
Yeah, only thing, I know I've talked to Colleen about this, and just making sure that it limits the registrations. I don't think we both think that 100 is the ceiling for this, so, but just if
Well-
you go over 100, the parking lot's gonna get pretty full, and then
Yeah,
it's
there's
gonna
no
be
place to
Yeah.
park,
No place to
yeah.
park.
If the Chinese restaurant ain't open, there's a little extra parking maybe, but then.
Because then you gotta run across the street.
It's an extra running.
Well,
My
my brain and my tongue
Yeah.
don't wanna work. Also, insurance, I mean, we have Primex, this is kind of a school function. Or Primex wants you to get extra insurance because they really don't wanna.
That would be worth looking into, I think, yeah.
You can ask.
Yeah, good point.
They may save a few bucks buying an insurance policy.
Now, how does fundraising work could you have an outside fundraising group and then donate the money to the Central class?
Yep. And then the
We're gonna
board would
approve it
that.
tonight, some, $35.
Yeah. Okay.
Church, yeah.
That's all, I just kept thinking, as they.
I'm just thinking,
even in
like,
the-
if the insurance company comes back and says, ah, that's not a good idea, you have to, you know, and
Well,
then
they will,
some-
they don't wanna insure
then
anything,
Maybe the
but
the rec
still, we
committee
pay
or-
an insurance to cover
or
something.
someone else could put it on. I'm just wondering.
And I'll have another question about the bills, because there was a bill for an insurance coverage, so that, after we're all done, I don't wanna confuse it here, but, yeah, just a thought, Primex, they cover, we have cross-country races here, it's part of a school function, everything's insured. And if there is an extra fee, it probably less, I don't know,
I will ask.
save her some money, it's for the kids.
Okay.
So, what are we doing? We make a motion?
Well, we can make a motion for all of them, or do you want to wait on the 5K until we
No.
hear from Primex, or we just
They
approve it?
can still keep
pending
checking that out,
Primex?
if you find out she doesn't need an extra policy, that's fine for me. But we're approving them to get going.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
So we'll take a motion to approve all of the,
as long as I don't have to
So
run.
moved.
all of the 7th grade fundraisers?
Yep.
Second?
Oh.
Any discussion? I second it. I heard you, Dave.
Okay, well, I would say yes.
You were not acknowledged.
I'm too slow.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then I believe we have 2 donations to accept as well?
So as mentioned, the Northwood Congregational Church donated $35 to the class of 2020. And then separate from that, Mrs. Lagasse, our art teacher, had done a donor's choose to look for a new drying rack, and the details are included a couple pages back, the last page of that addendum that I handed out. Her current drying rack is pretty old and is not very level and doesn't hold the kids' work very well. She received notice from Donors Choose recently that her request has been fulfilled, so we're looking for board approval to accept that gift.
Make a motion to accept these donations.
I'll second them.
Seconded by Mr. Winslow. Any discussion on this? All in favor? Motion carries. Yeah, and Mr. Winslow. Seconded. I believe there's one other thing here for Drama Club.
Yep. So Mrs. Plord, who happens to be in our audience, if you have any questions for her, is looking to do some fundraising for drama. This would consist of selling drama spiritware during the shows, selling a DVD of the performance, and selling refreshments before the shows. These funds would be used to pay royalty fees, pay for the running of the lights and sound during the shows, and then pay for items to support this specific performance as well as the drama program in general. So things like scenery, props, costumes, lighting and sound equipment, platforms to extend performance area, and then a end-of-season cast party would also be part of this.
Yeah, so moved, yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Sandman. Any discussion on this? Where's the money for this go? Is there a drama, like fund, like a student activities fund?
She
Okay.
has a student activities
It was
account.
in the activity that we got it last week.
Okay, great. All in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
And then the final item for board consideration, we have 2 students, siblings, in grades 2 and 5, who would like to start a club. This was entirely their idea. Their proposal is in the addendum packet. Their goal of the club is to save the planet, which I think is pretty cool. And they want to work with 1st through 5th graders to do weekly activities during a club meeting that might involve planting projects, decomposing projects, which I'm interested to know more about, some science experiments, and building things with recycled items, and as well as a community service project, and discussions about how they as kids can help save our planet. Both students approached me independently of each other and said, my mom would really like to talk to you about a club. And so I have been in touch with Melissa Emery. She is an approved volunteer. She is happy to provide supervision and take over that aspect of the club, but she really feels strongly that it's the kids' idea, and she wants them to do the vast majority of the planning and coordination of it. So this has my full endorsement, and we are looking for board approval.
Make a motion to approve the Environmental Save Our Planet Club.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Yeah, first, kids, somebody has to pick up their kids at 3:15. will somebody stay in case somebody is late picking up their kid, their child, I shouldn't say, their child? I mean,
Yeah, so Mrs.
Okay.
Emery would take on the responsibility of making sure that
that the
we
children
don't have
are
any
picked up and-
stowaways.
So nobody, you don't have the responsibility of
That's what
worrying
they
about them.
Like all the clubs, they do that.
All the time,
Yeah, we don't want that to be
she's
the
an outside
decomposing
person.
project.
Yeah, oh, it's fine, yeah. And you're okay with the hours, you have, there's so many other functions going on in
Yeah,
school,
there-
it's not
there's
gonna be a problem.
Many other clubs running.
But we should be able to find them a room with no problem.
So,
Okay.
I mean, technically, these clubs are supposed to come through the clubs committee. I assume this wasn't discussed
No, because
there?
this is not funded, so this is
Those
not
only the
some,
funding clubs go through the clubs committee?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I'm okay with that.
Interesting.
It's worth a try, I think, yeah.
That sounds
Anything
great.
else?
Little kids that wanna
Nope,
try
my kids
something.
sign up.
All in favor of approving this club, then?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
great.
It'll be safe.
I think
One club at a time.
that is all.
Let's see if I had a
Some questions
question for the principal.
Yep.
What was the one? Oh, insurance. We did have a bill for insurance for the nurse.
Yes.
Okay. And again, that's not something we would have covered through Primex, that,
No, so that's her liability insurance that
Okay.
we pay. So she
We as
pays
a
it and we reimburse her for it.
but we as a school have insurance, like this school board, if we screw up, we have an insurance, it's covered through Primex.
Yep.
This is a medical malpractice.
This
for
is
the
a
nurse.
medical, so, I just, yeah.
I'm guessing
You're
that
guessing,
that's what it
okay.
is. It's a
But,
malpractice.
I'm sorry, so I don't think
It's-
I've really
it's
seen
insurance
that before, and we
specific
probably
to the
do it every
nursing
year, but I
role.
can't
But
remember
yes,
seeing it.
Yes, Mrs. Benham had
Yeah.
it prior.
Okay. And, my other ones are all set. Okay.
You good? Anyone else have questions for the principal?
Did we get, yeah, oh, I have one more question. I have to. I can't help it. We bought some $88 edge scraping buckets, or what the heck were they? Mopping buckets, is that what they were for? It's just a bucket that you put the mop in and squeegee it out?
I think so.
Okay. It had a really weird name, like mop and bucket. I know.
It's kind of weird, it says cutting edge.
Cutting edge. Is
It
that
was
what
cutting
it's-
edge.
Cutting
They
edge.
are beautiful.
You use your phone and you make it go backwards and forwards?
I love
It's
it.
Alexa enabled.
Okay.
It's amazing.
We do look at all these little things, saying, okay,
I
what
used
is
it, I
that?
can attest to how wonderful it was.
Okay.
Sounded I got sick.
Now that he's done being the crossing guard, we've made him a custodian.
Okay. Oh, they have golf carts, they follow you behind wherever you go on the course, they're all,
Don't do it
yeah.
again.
Anything else? We're good, all right, thank you very much for the report. We will move on to policies. We have a number of policies in our packet, starting on page 50. Mr. Ruth, did you guys have
We
a,
had no policy meeting
Had no
because we
policy
got
meeting.
meetings canceled, so,
okay.
unless
so-
you guys have, did you have anything? No?
All right, so let's just go through them one at a time then. The first one we have is payroll authorization. This is something we've discussed in the past. Looks like it doesn't have a code yet, but I'm sure that will be added as time goes on. This is our first draft at this, I believe. I don't think we have a model, so we're kind of on our own, is what I'm guessing. So I want you, everybody look that over, and we can make some modifications or move to second reading, whatever you guys
Motion
want
to
to do.
move payroll authorization procedure to the second reading?
Second?
Any concerns or discussion about this one?
I would just like to see it done.
Well, after
Bring it
this.
back.
Yeah.
We'll bring it back next meeting then, and
Yeah.
Approve it.
yeah, adopt it after posting it and giving it numbers and
Preferred
such.
meeting.
Okay, all in favor of moving this to second reading?
Aye.
So it's approved. Um, All right. We do have policy BEDH. According to the notes, this is just a new name. Public comment and participation at board meetings, although I don't see that on here.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve, reaffirm policy BEDH with a new name.
Second.
Discussion on that?
What did we change it to?
Well, that's the thing, it doesn't look like it's been changed, right, in the packet at least.
School board meeting procedures.
Yeah, but that's the
But
original.
that's not the new name.
The name is public comment and participation at board meetings, according to our notes on
Right.
page 50, so.
So just have the new name added
Yeah,
for
one over
the
there.
reaffirmation?
Yep,
Okay, I'll have that added.
thank you.
Yep.
Let me just do this real quick. Okay, all in favor of reaffirming this with the new name?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, motion carries 5-0. We have reaffirmed it. Policy EBCA, emergency plans. This is the first reading.
I'll make a motion to move policy EBCA to second reading. This is emergency plans.
Okay, so it looks like, thank you. Looks like this might be a new name too. It says in the notes, new name, crisis prevention and emergency response plans. However, it does seem like there's some changes as well. Do you have any background on this?
I do not on this one, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
They add the first paragraph, it looks like. And then it looks like,
There's a bunch of stuff added to it.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess they did change it quite a bit from even this.
There was a fall update, so they're looking at just changing some of the wording.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with any of this. This seems fine, but
Makes sense.
yeah, it's much more detailed, which is good. So are we in favor, so we're gonna move this to second reading with the new name, I assume?
Yes.
So,
New name.
with the new name. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move that forward. Policy IHBG is here for first reading, which also supposedly has a new name. Home education, instruction, and access to curricular and co-curricular programs.
Yeah, I move policy IHBG to second reading with the new name.
Second?
Okay. So IHBG. Any discussion on this?
This also needs a new name.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right, all in favor of moving this to second reading with the new name, new content? All right, motion carries 5-0. Policy IHBG-R, which is a form, I believe, right?
Yes.
And I
Oh, no, it's not a form.
would like to move policy IHBG-R to second reading.
Second?
Any discussion on this? So R being, is R a procedure? Is that what those are? With R?
Yes.
Any comments, concerns about this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Moving to second reading, motion carries 5-0. And finally, policy IJ, very short name, with another new name, instructional resources and instructional resource plan.
I'd like to move policy IJ with the new name to second reading.
Second?
Second by Ms. Hanneman. And looks like there's a bunch of new content here as well. Excuse me. So, there is a, if everybody looks on page 68, on the last paragraph, last line of the last paragraph, actually. Says the superintendent is directed to prepare, maintain, and implement a written plan for the ongoing development, organization, acquisition, maintenance, replacement, and updating of instructional resources necessary to support the needs of the user population and improve curriculum, The plan shall conform to the applicable NHDOE requirements and should be presented to the school board every blank years for a periodic review.
So he put a recommendation, the recommendation is whether you want to go for a 3 or 5 year review of the curriculum. I would leave that up to also Mrs. Young to see what her opinion is on that, what she feels is an appropriate amount of time to be reviewing that curricula.
But nowadays, things are changing left and right all the time. I think 3 years would be appropriate. But
What's your feeling on this, Ms. Young?
Well, you have a curriculum cycle schedule where each subject is on its own schedule. So frankly, I don't think it matters that much because every one of those things is going to be updated on a regular basis. So whether it's 3 years or 5 years, I think there's already a structure in place to keep things up to date.
Well, that's 3 years.
Yeah, 3 years
I think
sounds
3
fine to
years
me.
gives the board, any member, any
Right.
potential one-term member on the board a chance to see what's
That's
going
true.
on, so.
Good point. Yep.
Okay, I'll make
All
sure
right, so
it's.
we'll fill that in with 3 years for when we bring it back for the second reading. All right, all in favor of this?
Aye.
All right. Okay, so we're moving back to second reading as amended and renamed.
Yeah.
And that's all we have for policies right now. Is there any other policy questions or anything? Policy committee?
I imagine we'll be setting up for the first meeting of the month, which will be
I'll be there.
soon.
Yep.
If I can just note out, just quickly a typo on page 70, it's the form that goes with that policy.
Okay.
Just right in the first sentence, please is missing an E.
Okay, thank you.
I hate to do that, but just it jumped right out.
Yep.
Yeah, I only have one.
shorthand.
Well, do you want to fix taught he principal then?
I didn't catch that one, so it doesn't bother me.
What's wrong with that?
Which one was that?
Where was that?
So at the very end of the second
Oh,
line,
yeah, I see.
the T got
Yeah.
joined to the 2 instead of
To the.
Tati principal.
There you go.
Gotcha.
I'm not gonna get that image on my head now, a Tati principal. All right, moving on from
Then there's
policy.
a capital right after that, or that if should be capitalized.
Oh my gosh.
So maybe we can make a request just to review this form. for
Yeah,
right?
I got it. You're
You
good.
might wanna
I
do
put
some,
typos.
And I'm not really good at that. So.
No, so
Yeah.
well, originally I just put typo. Now I added an S, so we
Distinction
know.
line could go up.
Yeah, typos.
Why did that hurt?
I'm glad you sick people are all over there.
Yeah.
Away from everybody.
I made sure to wash
You've
my
been
hands really
coughing.
well
What are you
before.
talking about?
I'm getting over mine.
All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report,
Yes.
presented by Mr. Burns tonight.
Yeah, so there's a nomination in there for co-facilitator of the book club.
Aaron Mon.
Yes.
Um,
In the amount of $250.
Do we approve it?
I think club stipends were usually
Take their recommendation.
informational.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Ruth?
I believe they are. We talked about that earlier,
Yeah, okay, right, sorry. Thought you said you had.
so I'm sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
So I'll just need a.
Oh, you want me to sign that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And next we have 2 resignations. Ms. King from elementary and Kimberly Clemens from middle school math, effective of June 30th, 2019.
So I'll make a motion that we accept these resignations with regret. Second. Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yep.
One is actually a retirement.
What? That's true.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did Mrs. King put in for the retirement early, or she just?
No, actually, Mrs. King had originally been scheduled to retire at the end of last year, and she had asked the board for permission to stay on for 1 more year.
Oh, all right, so
Came
that would have
back.
been before, okay.
Yep.
Is there anybody else then retiring this year, or is it?
Yes.
There is, but I don't want to speak to that without having it in writing from them.
Oh, okay. But a retirement, not just moving on, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carries 5-0.
So the next three sections of the superintendent report were just for your review and for you to look over. There's nothing to take action on.
Anything you want to call out?
Just that, we continue to put the report card out. This is something that the state compiles the numbers for. We put it together. We're constantly trying to keep the data consistent, knowing that the tests change often, but this is the best that we can produce for that report card. But as you can see, things are staying pretty steady there overall. And that's it.
So this will be available for anyone if they want to pick it up at the
That's
SAU office? as
At
well?
the SAU office, and it's also available online.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have a report card. We also have the transition survey.
Yep, the transition survey, which this would be available at the SAU as well. If you wanted to look it up, it was something that was presented on as well. Just really looking at how the Co-Brown students feel about Co-Brown.
You're checking that up over there.
If I was a freshman and I was getting a survey about what happened in 7th and 8th grade, I don't know.
Yeah, there's some funny answers in here sometimes. That I've seen. And
the last part
Compliance
is,
audit?
yep, New Hampshire retirement, just saying that we're all within compliance and there's no issues that were found.
so this gets audited every year, perhaps?
That's correct.
And it's just for the retirement?
Yes,
So
this
some parts
section
of
is
it?
just the retirement, yep. Making sure that everyone was classified correctly, all the fees were paid, everything of that nature.
Anybody have any other questions for our
Stand in.
Tot-He superintendents?
Unless I missed something, page 107?
That's under new business, yeah?
Oh, that's under the new
Yeah,
business.
yes.
Oh,
Yeah, we haven't
I'm
got there
thinking
yet.
Scott, my head was Scott's
No,
bringing
no.
it to us, all
No,
right.
not a problem.
So we're going to it next anyway.
Yep. All right, well, thank you for that. Yep. New business. Floor mat update.
So is that for me to inform? I'm not sure on the floor mat,
Oh, I can do it.
okay.
So, Mr. Runing made me aware of the interest in having one continuous floor mat for in front of the bleachers, so Mr. Tom looked into that. He contacted a couple different companies, and also Co-Brown in terms of how they handle and manage their floor mat. Co-Brown does have one continuous piece. They also have 2 or 3 guys who set it up and take it down, and they use a 2-wheel hand truck to move it. So just one thing to consider is we often have 2 guys here, but we don't always. So on weekends, for example, we don't have a second guy here. If our athletic director is setting up, she doesn't always have somebody available to assist her. And they are weighty. The lightest one is about 160 pounds up to 180 pounds, so it's not a minor weight to dress. And both people that Tom talked to said that typically they don't sell them in one continuous piece, they sell them in 2 or 3 pieces. Tom is fine to entertain the idea. He is concerned about safety if we're looking at one continuous piece. But there are 4 quotes included in the packet, and then I have an additional one from a more local company that's comparable. So these range in durability, and I actually have some samples. You can have a little show and tell.
So which is
The
which?
thin one, you don't want the thick
The
one.
diamond one is pretty easy. The other ones
Thinnest,
I'm
you
not.
want a
Yeah, the
thin one,
diamond
even
one
though they
would be
say
that
don't
one.
last, that's all you need.
I touched those all, so use dirt like that.
Listen, we can change the requirements for somebody that they gotta be able to lift 170 pounds. I mean, what's the big deal, right? Used to have 2 8th graders. You
That'll
just
really
say,
help
"Hey,
thin
roll
out the
that up
herd
and
of
pick it up."
custodians who are knocking on our door to work here.
Ours would be about 3/4 the length of Co-Brown. So it would be a lot
It would be
wider.
58 feet, and they
That's my problem. Well, go ahead, pass around. I made this suggestion because we used to have one, and if you had one the whole length of the floor, our floor is probably, it would probably be about 82 feet, and theirs is probably about 120 feet long, 125 feet long.
So these are all 58
Yeah.
feet in length, and
That's- yeah, so
they
that
do
stinks
range
to me,
from the company. Their specs are 160 to 180 pounds.
What's the point of this, just to protect the
The
floor?
point is to protect the floor for safety. When
But
you-
they're all like,
It's cheap.
they're, right now, they're currently just.
You get 6 pieces of rubber.
Duct tape together, and it's a little,
Just for my minutes, because I'm a little confused about where this is going.
right in front of.
Front of the bleachers.
In front of the
in
bleachers,
gym.
so
It's a 4-foot section that's just gonna run in front of the bleachers?
right.
Yeah, so when
And
people come
probably
in with a
right
sheet
underneath
front
the bleachers a
with all
little
their
bit.
snow and mud, that doesn't get.
Makes a big difference.
Doesn't get
Yeah.
onto the floor.
Keeps
right.
the floor.
By-
I don't know, I
by
like
ha-
these two.
Co Brown has theirs full length, and by
I don't
having
know
a
if I
full
wanna touch
length, you
them.
don't have to tape it in the middle, you don't have, you have a lot
Maybe
of.
like expensive
He
ones?
likes those too.
4 foot wide. 3 foot would probably work
Diamond is
for us,
nice.
because we don't have that much
Thicker
room
ones.
anyway.
Diamond
But
looks
ours
nice.
would be,
But yeah, I do understand the.
but by having it the full length, you just roll it up and leave it over in the corner. It ain't like you gotta have a hand truck that, they move it somewhere completely. Co Brown has a lot more storage than us. Yeah, you don't need this, this is,
It's not a lot of rolling.
Which one?
one,
It's
that
big
one
and
is the
bulky.
one you'd want. It's the thinnest, you don't need these.
Water.
Yeah, because when you start rolling it, and
And then you got.
You want it
Which
thin, you
one-
don't want
so
the
which
thick
one's
ones.
which? Let's see.
that's
They're too thick and too heavy.
I just wanted to see which one is.
So the
And the price.
to get it on.
corrugated,
This is a,
that one, yeah, that one said
Corrugated.
968.
The diamond plate is not what you,
And then the diamond mat one is pretty self-explanatory.
corrugated
Yeah.
would be, that's not too thick, the thin corrugated, what's that one? And this one's supposed to, is there one to say skid? Is that like a skid?
Did you say there was one local one
Yeah,
as well?
I didn't make photocopies of it. I can pass this around. It's 160 pounds. It's 60 feet long, 4 feet wide, and $1,141.
Crazy.
so the cheapest one's fine.
Was there
Since we
any,
don't probably have any more basketball games, we probably don't need it this year, but you really should have something.
What's the
down there
length of the
protecting.
bleachers now?
The length of the basket, I did a quick measurement, the basketball court is small, it's about 70 feet long,
The
which
bleachers
is a couple of feet shorter, the actual court. And then you add 6 feet on either end, so we're roughly about 82 feet inside that gymnasium, from the one wall to the other
Well,
wall.
you just put it in front of the bleachers.
Well, when you do that, now you have a starting point that you're taping down. So you want, people walk in, the door's like 5 feet wide, so you want it to be beyond the bleachers. That's why I say you might as well go right from one end to the other. You're gonna have less tripping, you're gonna have much better coverage. And it'd be easy to roll it up and just leave it, one end to the other.
So it would still be two pieces. Because
I don't think, well, I wouldn't buy 2 pieces, but that's just me. They can do it in one piece, they just normally order it.
Is there
If
anything?
Co Brown
right-
has one 125 feet long with no divide,
Is there anything right now from the door to the mat?
no?
I can't remember. Okay.
There's sometimes is some rugs there, but sometimes they're not. I'm just, again, I don't want to spend money either, but it's like, we used to have one, and after 15 years, I suppose it deteriorated. And it used to be in 2 pieces, and it used to be taped, and it was always curling up, and people somewhat tripping. And you, as an official, you go running around and get off to that
I
side,
got
and
these feet. I'm like a
you'll
ballerina.
be tripping over everything.
That's what you call that?
I just think it's an aesthetic thing compared to
does
what
not
we
look
have
good
right
right
now.
Yeah, I mean, what we have now, there's so much.
It would be a lot better to,
Potentially, someday, so yeah.
did Mr. Tom have a preference or a suggestion for which one to go with, or has the facilities committee looked at it?
He is a fan of purchasing something that's durable, so he would, I think, go for one of the heavier duty ones.
yeah, don't need it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in my opinion, I've been doing this for a long time.
Well, what would be better at getting?
All you need is the thinnest one. He
But this
sells
one
it.
would also catch the dirt, the sand and stuff, because it's got spaces. Because I have one going up my stairs, because I don't have a driveway, I have dirt.
Yeah,
and I bring it in my house. And if
And
you have
that's
a flat one, it just flies off of it.
Well, none of
onto
them
your
are
floor.
flat.
No, this has space for
Right.
dirt to get caught.
That one is probably better than that one.
This one doesn't,
That one's a non-slip one,
yeah. I would say
but thin.
these, but whatever. I think for the case of keeping the floor clean and looking good.
Well, you can actually sweep either one of those or vacuum it off before you roll it up, which is what you would do, because you don't
Yeah.
want to roll it up with all the dirt or water on it anyway.
Did you get this?
Almost,
Are you sure you don't want to look it up?
Well, the other thing is, if
Slow
you're
down.
gonna buy two pieces of 58, you're gonna be cutting 26 feet off at $10 a foot.
I'm sure we could probably order it to length.
I would.
Does the
Again.
board want to proceed in this?
Well, I got one meeting left, so if you want to get rid of me, you don't have to vote on it tonight. Do it, I mean, it isn't an emergency now, only because basketball's pretty much over. But I really suggest that if something is bought and used for that. That's all.
Yep.
Well, we want to do this, we want to give it a week and 2 weeks?
Let's put it on a parking lot.
Yeah, see if you can get a one piece and measure it. And I'm gonna roughly guess it's about 82, 84 feet from one wall to the other wall. In front of the gymnasium is probably about, I'm sorry, right in front of the bleachers, it's probably about 58 feet.
What do we get if you're wrong?
You get,
Somebody else on the school board.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we,
I'll buy you lunch, yes, tomorrow.
can we kick this back to the facilities committee and have the facilities committee take a look at it and come back with a solid recommendation?
Schedule a meeting.
And then when that's done, at our next meeting, whatever, we'll make a decision. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
All right, that's what we'll do then.
Yeah, just put your,
No.
yeah, there, now you don't get all rings on the thing.
Do you see what's already on
Agenda
this
for next
table?
meeting. or not?
Put it to go to
You
the
don't need a
facilities.
real
committee, So after they have a chance to
Yeah.
talk
You can't
about it,
roll
I'll
it
get it
up.
put back on the agenda.
All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
we won't meet before the
Right,
next meeting.
exactly,
with
so I put it in
vacation.
parking lot, it'll be a parking lot item, and then once it gets.
Yeah, actually, we'll need to put it in the parking lot or.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it,
but we
I
can.
got you. No, I'll take it completely off, and I'll just say, once the facilities team gets it, we'll get it back on.
Sure. I guess if you put it on the parking lot, at least we won't forget about it. So, I mean, why not, I guess.
Okay.
All right.
You don't, you
Sometimes
can't live in
things
New
get
Hampshire.
lost,
We
you
do
know?
that with the law.
I'll look into that.
Mr. Ruth, will you give us a calendar committee update, please?
It's on page, I saw it somewhere.
112.
Page 112. That was what we come up with.
I'm out of here next meeting, I'm out.
So I know there was some talk of a Columbus Day
Yeah,
not
no, we're
being,
not.
that came back.
We're gonna be off on Columbus Day. Or Indigenous Day, maybe.
Indigenous Peoples' Day?
Sure. Whatever we want to call it.
And the last day is, again, the 18th of June. And that, I'd love to see it earlier than that, because that makes it kind of close for having, the state says you're supposed to have 10 snow days. We always end up with 8. They never bug us about it, I guess. And Jocelyn went over and did a lot of work and figured that out. We asked Mr. Rooney about the October 12th. Oh, well, it's not the 12th anymore.
14th, yeah.
Long time ago, it used to be always on the 12th. And we met whatever qualifications we need for our contracts to start. I'll pass it over to Mrs. Young now.
The big change on here is less about the days in school and more about grading periods. So as we have moved into a standards-based report card, we are reporting more in depth and therefore can probably do it less frequently. Many schools who use a standards-based report card have a trimester system rather than a quarter system. Stratford would be an example locally. So this calendar reflects trimesters for next year rather than quarters. So that's really the most significant change on here.
That'd be indicated just in the grades closed part here.
Yep.
The progress reports, yep. So is this the final version from the calendar committee and looking for approval by the school board tonight? Yes, all right, so is there a motion to do that?
Motion approved to 2019-2020 calendar.
Second?
Any further discussion on this? We all happy? No? All right, all in
Me,
fa-
no.
You know? I'm surprised that we'll see 2 weeks of vacation in here still instead of one.
Oh, no, I gave up. We lost by 1 vote out of 3 towns, 1 vote.
So this gives, I'm just counting, gives a potential for 8 snow days before we'd have to adjust the calendar.
Yeah.
That would, yeah.
I love these 2-hour delays.
Yeah, that
Just
helps.
enough snow. No, don't have to cancel school.
Your wife can go out and clean your car off for you and
I
everything.
built the garage this past.
Oh.
All right.
Did you actually get your car in?
Oh, yeah.
I have a garage, I can't get it in. It just sits on a driveway.
All right, all in favor
Covers
of,
everything.
all in favor of approving the calendar? Calendar is approved.
Goes to work before I do it.
Internet video discussion. So this came from our parking lot. At one point, we were discussing, asking or investigating to see whether we could contract out with a company to publish the videos that are taken online, on YouTube or whatever. Do you have any new information for us about this? Or
I
is it
do
just-
not, it was asked at some of the other boards as well on what we could do, and, we could start a YouTube channel and start posting it. It's just whether or not we have the ability to get it uploaded rapidly enough to, to
Well, I
that
think,
system.
I think the idea was that we're going to look into hiring a company to do it, or perhaps the company of Gary over there to upload it as he's doing the processing.
Okay.
That he would normally be doing for the town, for the cable stuff, anyway.
I can definitely bring that back and make sure.
We do it live.
We do have YouTube Live.
Selectmen have voted against it all the time.
Against doing it live,
To do these meetings live?
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The cost,
Yeah.
the equipment.
so I think what the board would want is for somebody to maybe talk to Gary, figure out what it would take to do that, how much it would cost, what the details were, and come back with
Come with a
that.
price.
Yeah, with a price and a proposal for doing it. I think that's what we're looking for here.
Okay, I can have that done, make sure it's
Is
done.
that
Yeah, that sounds right.
everybody? And then we'll figure it out from there. All right. Delegate Assembly, did you have
Oh, yes.
a report for that or something?
Yeah, so to make it real short, everything the way we voted, everybody else voted. So, everything that we wanted passed or not passed was what the whole assembly wanted to vote. The biggest thing was the whole gun situation. I tell you what, there's some wingbats out there, I'm telling you.
The whole back.
So,
On the delegate assembly
Oh,
or
yeah.
just in general?
Just, at the delegate assembly, I thought certain former school board members were crazy, but that was very entertaining. But one thing they did put on a presentation there, what I want to talk about, and the Merrimack Valley School District, Merrimack School District, came up with a thing called System of Care and Learning Supports. And they did a study first on ACE, which is Adverse Childhood Experiences. And they put out this survey, they put out all these community members, kind of like a strategic plan, but wanted to find out how the mental health was in Merrimack School, and then finally come up with a plan, because they found out with children that have adverse childhood experiences have behavior issues. The more you have, the more behavior issues that you start to have, and more your academics start to drop. So it's really interesting. So when they put the study out there, and the survey out there, they found out that they were spending like 90% of the time with Tier 3 and Tier 2 students that really need a lot of help. Like a Tier 3 student would be someone that's suicidal, someone that's cutting themselves, stuff like that. And they forgot that they were not paying attention to the general population at all, the Tier 1 students that were still having some adverse issues. So they decided before they go, hey, we need more counselors, or we need more, nurses in school, or we need this, we need that. They did this huge study first, which I thought was very, very and there's tons of data on it and what they did. And they just found out that that children that have one or more adverse what is it? experiences do have behavior issues. And I thought it was very interesting that, I mean, some of the behavior issues that we're having here, are they being tracked? Do we know how many people are suicidal in the school? Do we know how many people are cutting? And we don't need names, of course. We just need, like, statistic-wise, and then finding out, hey, where can we better put our resources? And so I think we should look into it more. This school board will actually come and give the same presentation they gave us, which I would like to probably set up. Maybe do it as a joint board one as well, so you're not wasting your time just on 5 people. So it was really, really interesting. It's probably the best presentation I've seen in a long time. I was really engaged on it, and was definitely, because I was just thinking about even the SRO being inside the school and seeing certain things with certain kids, like, I know this kid for the last 2 years, he's acting kind of weird, what's going on? I know he's having some parent issues, because we were at the house the other day for some physical abuse, that kind of stuff. And then if you're keeping stats too, you just, then when someone that comes to the board and says, hey, why do we have 3 guidance counselors? Why do we only have 1 guidance counselor? So we can say, hey, well, this is the study, this is the stuff that we found out. So, yeah.
Who did who like executed all of the study and gathered all the data?
So it was the members of the district, the mental health community, I just read it verbatim, included district-wide helpers from all 6 schools, including administration, school counselors, behavior specialists, school nurse, special education teacher, EBD teacher? What's EBD?
What'd you say?
EBD teacher?
Emotional
Emotional.
behavioral.
Behavioral disorder, yep. School psychologists and other district coordinators. And so they took all those people in and then found out, okay, they started doing like, hey, what's ACE? What's a verse child experience? They got educated on all that first, and then they went out and started collecting data. And then they came back to the board and said, all right, this is what the school really needs. You have way too many guidance counselors. You need more behavioral health specialists, something like that. So,
That's great.
yeah.
Cool. I'm interested.
So I can get in touch with them, and then I will, and then see to kind of get with the SAU with the
Right,
joint
yeah.
board.
Yeah, 'cause it might be something that might be good for the joint board to do.
Yeah, and I think maybe I'll just,
The public want to go?
yeah, that's like I was just gonna say, open up to the public.
Yeah, we'll have one of those.
Kind of like when you get with
Three
towns and-
we have the SAU joint kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
So,
all right.
ACEs.
So I will get in touch with them and see what their availability is, and I'll probably just give you the contact information to you guys.
Shane, real quick, did you say Merrimack School or Merrimack Valley?
Merrimack School, down in southern New Hampshire.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Committee reports? Do you have any committee meetings that we haven't already addressed? I know there's a technology committee, but I missed that one. Is there anything interesting there?
I was not able to
Okay.
attend either.
I don't think Mr. Roberts was there either, so I don't think they got much done.
We had a safety committee meeting last Tuesday. We're going to have a tabletop exercise in April with the Homeland Security, with safety committee staff. So things are moving very well with our reunification plans. So,
Any other committee meetings? Nope.
The only thing from budget committee is that I believe there are 4 open positions with no candidates. Is that correct, Ms. Stoll?
That is correct. We're gonna write in names.
If people want to wage a write-in campaign.
I'm starting
members anyway.
to write in names.
so
None of us are
Names I'm
eligible.
going to write in.
Other than me.
Right.
so is Eric Buckland the one that's part of the Gulf District?
Yeah.
He's automatically, he's the
He's automatic-
representative for that.
Yeah, so
Right,
so he can't run for the position.
Right,
He's just
he
already in.
cannot. He's the
Only in his own
representative.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ex
he's the
officio.
representative for that district.
Yeah.
Like Bob Young is a representative for the water district,
Okay.
et cetera. So yes, we're, if you know of anyone that would be interested in running, write-ins. I got approached
you like?
a number of years ago,
Right.
probably 20 years ago, because I had 5 write-in votes. Did I want to be on the budget committee? Because there was an opening, and
Yeah, we have a current member who written in the last election.
Right,
cycle, so-
Grace was.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had
Oh.
50 votes for a
Her
write-in.
name's in here, did you see her name in here tonight? From
Grace Maddox?
1996?
Yeah,
She's a
that's right.
Former school board member, yeah.
Hey, do you know if, for write-ins, is there a minimum amount?
Nope.
It's just one write-in and they,
I'm trying to remember, I
You
believe
play a
there's
mean
two
joke on
two-year positions available, or it's a 1 year and 1 2-year, but if names are written in, whoever gets the most votes in that section as a write-in would be the person that it would first be offered to.
Okay.
So just because we write somebody's name in doesn't mean they want it.
right.
So do you ask Mickey Mouse all the time?
There have been some Mickey Mouses, there have been some Peter Pans, and there was one Pinocchio one year, I remember.
It's not what you want on that budget committee.
But, you know, but that's the problem with the budget committee. We have a 16-member board, which means we have to have 9 members present to have a quorum. And when you're already down 4,
Yep.
that only leaves a leeway of 3 to still be, that miss a meeting, and you can still have a meeting. So it does create some issues. So if anyone wants to run, I'm putting a plug out.
Okay, strategic plan checklist, starting on page 113, we have our strategic plan checklist in the packet. We're due to review this every first meeting of the month. I think it's the first meeting of the month, so, but we missed it. That's why this is here now.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I have a note here, and I don't know if I didn't put it in from the last time, that plan to do a more thorough review at the reorganization meeting in April.
Of the strategic plan, yeah,
Just-
that could well be, yeah.
So I, just
Yep,
offering that,
yep.
and I can take it out if you change your minds tonight.
No, I think,
For some reason, that's why I'm.
I think that's gonna be the time when we'll redo it. So, yeah, I guess it's just for review now, unless anybody has any questions or anything you wanna discuss about this. But I would certainly take a look and keep in mind that this is probably something we do wanna address at the reorg a month from now, I suppose, right? So,
Okay, before we finish the
yeah,
adjournment, I do have one question for probably the SAU. As was told to me, I don't know if it's a rumor or what, but we have 3 towns in the SAU, and one of them is going to propose a study to get out of the SAU,
that
so
was my
That is
understanding.
correct.
maybe we should have some information, maybe at the next meeting, or afterwards, just give this board some knowledge of what might happen if that goes through, and how that works. And if that town went out, then what would happen to 2 towns?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll put together,
Yeah.
that will be a part of the withdrawal study, is that plan would be.
Yeah, something, yeah, so this
So I'll
board would
make
be
sure-
informed and say,
Yeah.
okay, ooh, what could happen,
Yeah.
what can we do?
Let's put that on our agenda for our next meeting to get a
Okay.
kind of an update or just.
If he has enough time for just an update, doesn't have to be too
Yep.
detailed. but Give us all an idea of what,
Yeah, what would happen, and what's it gonna look like if it goes through and things like that.
Do that.
Did you have anything to add to the strategic planning checklist? Have you been keeping this up to date? Has it been changing, or is it?
We have not changed it since we first filled it out. I would say that some of the things that we said were partially in place were things that we're still actively working on to get better and improve, so we haven't had many changes yet.
living, breathing document.
Can I just ask about, I'm looking at just at goal 1, the first two. The medium priority one is the second one, explore reorganization of the school and academic schedules of flexible targeting of instruction. What, is that, well, it says not in place, is that, are we doing, is that moved at all? And if not, like, how do we start that, or, I mean, what would it look like to start exploring how we reorganize the academic schedule?
I think you could ask 10 different people that question and get 10 different answers. You're
I'm sure
asking
you
me,
could.
so I'll give you my answer, which
Exactly.
may vary wildly from anybody else's. One of the things that we looked at here is the sequence of events, and competency-based education, to me, is the priority in terms of sequence. In order to make a lot of these other things make sense,
Right.
we need to have a solid competency-based system in place first.
Okay.
I suppose changing the academic schedule to trimesters is kind of a step in that direction as
So
well. right?
standards-based reporting is in and of itself a step in the right direction to competency-based. We're getting a really solid understanding of what standards are, competencies then are clusters of standards put together. So as, we'll have another year or two of a standards-based report card, and then we'll start to look at a competency-based instructional and assessment system. So there is a method to the madness.
Mhm. Thanks. Anything else anybody wants to discuss on this? All right, since nobody's jumping at it, we'll bring it back in a month anyway. Parking lot items,
I have updated the internet video discussion,
okay?
and I have also put on the map for the gym floor, and that would be, I targeted it for May for review and discussion.
The maps.
Yes, because that will give them time in April to meet as a facility team and then come back, because it wouldn't be on the next one.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Blizzard bags, we'll talk about maybe in April. We'll have to bring that back in a couple of months. Everything else we're kind of already discussed or are well aware of, so. Unless anybody wants to make any changes here. Timeline. What month is it? It's February, right? Late February, so we should be looking at March even.
Yeah.
Evaluation policy, VA, I'm gonna ask that we do that at our next meeting, because it's our last meeting before before the election. So if we could get a note that we'll get BA policy in the packet, and also the board goals that we set in the beginning of the year, and so that we can evaluate ourselves on that, on those two things. So, in fact, maybe you could even ask Mr. Greening to email them to us ahead of time,
Okay.
so we have time to reflect on that. So we'll either get in the packet or get an email of that, and so everybody come with some idea as to, how we did. We can use whatever grading, A, B, C, D, F, right? If you want, do it the old classic way, or whatever.
So it's the board evaluation policy and
And the board goals.
the board.
So we set
Okay.
goals in the beginning of each year. Now, this is
second
the
meeting.
end of the year, we should evaluate ourselves on our goals, see how we did. And then that'll help inform our goals going forward for the next year. So I kind of intend a big part of our next meeting to be focused on that, since it's our last meeting before the election. So please give it some thought. Coming in from March, we have voting, reorganization, general review with board and non-public and professional evaluations.
I
Okay.
would suggest moving that to May. We don't actually complete our professional evaluations until mid-April, so to synthesize and summarize that, I
a little
don't think
early.
would happen in March.
Okay.
So,
Maybe just a reminder.
Everybody okay with moving that to May then? All right, so we can note to move that. I don't know why election of new board members is in here kind of twice, but long-range planning, that'll be our goals and stuff. Committees, that's all reorganization stuff. Non-CBA contract discussion, that's coming up. Change in school day to union, we're not doing that, I don't think, so we don't need to worry about that. And the spring coaching list, so I think we're in pretty good shape for March. Right, unless anyone has anything on that?
So what do you guys want for future agenda items?
Future agenda items.
I've got the update on the withdrawal.
All right,
These
so
are just my notes.
Yep,
And then
so-
the board goals and board evaluation.
the board goals and board evaluation is going to be our next meeting. SAU withdrawal, as you mentioned. We'll bring back the payroll policy for
Okay, so
for
those are the
adoption.
policies that are coming back. Okay.
Yep, some policies will be coming back.
Okay.
The NEWA results,
Who was this?
NEWA, NWEA testing results. We'll get a summary of that. And I think we're going to have our audit presentation as well, our next meeting. So it's going to be a busy meeting. Next couple of meetings are going to be busy, so. Is there anything else anybody wants to add to that? Please, no. No. Good. Did I miss everything? Is that-
No, you wanted BA is on the agenda?
Yep, yep, BA and board goals, yep.
And then the only other thing that I know that you want us to bring to you is not really for the agenda, but you want to just be alerted on the purchase of the actuators. So we'll make sure that you're updated on that
Okay.
at that meeting.
Yep, that's fine. Okay, if anyone has anything they want to add, please just let me know 7 days before the next meeting. Maybe someone should bring cake, since it'll be somebody's last meeting for a little while.
You're gonna give him a cake?
I'm not bringing a
He
cake,
doesn't need a cake.
but just throwing it out there if somebody wants to.
Okay.
I'm just
And
kidding.
then chocolate if we're gonna do that.
So our next meeting,
What's your favorite kind?
Chocolate, are you kidding?
future meetings, our next
Don't you dare.
Our next and last board meeting for this group will be March 7th. We have a joint board meeting on March 11th, and then our next regular reorganization board meeting will be on March 21st with a new group.
The March 7th is supposed to be able, so our informal meeting beforehand.
Thank you for that reminder.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah.
We should, we should probably have that as, we started that kind of after you would already have this printed up, right?
Yeah. Who, I mean, I was there last time, did somebody else want
there
to, and you were
last
there,
time. I'd
that's right,
come
you were there
again.
last time. Somebody else want to do it, or it's just right before this
I don't
meeting?
mind.
Yeah, if you want to do it,
Yeah.
you two will be, yeah.
Okay.
Brian and Amy want to meet with the,
You're gonna meet at here
yeah, it'll
at,
be here at 5:30, I believe.
45?
5:45.
Okay.
5:45, yeah, yeah, so a little half-hour
we
meeting
would probably
before.
have a, Jocelyn, our meeting usually at 5 the first Monday, first meeting, I'm sorry, not first Monday,
What's up for
the policy.
policies?
Yes, we typically meet at 5.
I mean, if we're not done, or we can have our meeting in the office or something, so, on policy, so, yeah,
Yep.
we're all set. Yeah, then I would leave this open.
Okay. Anything else? Is there any closing public comment? No public comment? Any board members?
I just want to say one thing there. I'll go back to that Merrimack's presentation. One thing they said to us that really resonated with me is that you can't deliver curriculum with mental health distractions. So, just want to put that out there.
Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public comment. We do have need for a non-public session under RSA 91-A:32C
Which is that? What's-
for the superintendent evaluation negotiations. So I'll need a motion to go into a non-public.
Motion to go to non-public.
Second?
Second, we'll roll call in. Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Green, yes. Mr. Ruth?
Yes.
Ms. Hanneman?
Yes.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes.
All right, we're going to non-public.